By the 80s, if you lived in England and you hadn't heard of Tony Milch, you either didn't watch the news or you were dead. Which meant you probably didn't watch the news.
Oh, no question. The world was his oyster, and he was... whatever eats oysters. What eats oysters?
Everything we touched turned to business. I was co-founder, co-owner, co-conspirator, We did a lot of coke.
Whelks. He was a whelk. Does anything else eat oysters?
For 2 years, I never saw him, except for the day we married.
Humans? Right, yes. Well, the world was his oyster, and he was a human being.
Yeah, right from the get-go, I was Tony's right-hand man. He had a left-hand man, but I tried to sort of ignore him. Gregor. Very creepy guy. Yeah, I was Tony's first shareholder, his first chairholder. He often asked me to hold his chairs, which was bloody honour, TBH. Gregor couldn't do it because he always had a sort of black substance on his hands. He said it was Marmite, but the Marmite doesn't smell like that.
Tyres. That's where it all started.
Oh dear. Looks like someone wasn't running on Milch. Milch your motor with a full set of Milch tyres. Make mine a Milch.
Make mine a Milch, I remember that. Oh yes, that spread up and down the country. So exciting. I used to say it all the time. Morning, make mine a Milch. Yes, make mine a Milch, Mr. Johnson. No idea what it meant.
He bust a gut to get that business, I mean not his own, but he bust a gut to get that business off the ground. Okay, he and I were burning the candle at both ends and putting what was left in our mouths and smoking it.
At that time, most tyres were pretty expensive. But Tony found out through the father of one of his old school friends that they were making thousands in Czechoslovakia, but they weren't making any cars. He bought the surplus and they smuggled them out in cabbage trucks.
And in Britain, all of a sudden, you can move for Milch tyres. What's that by the lamppost? Milch tyre. What's that on the roof? Milch tyre. What's that in your pocket? My house keys. Not everything was a Milch tyre. Sometimes things were house keys.
So with the money from the tyres, we bought our first office in a nifty little place called Soho. Don't know if you've heard of it. I remember I stood there on the first night, the keys in my hand. I said to Tony, "What colour do you want to paint the walls?" And he said, "The colour of money."
Yeah, I met Tony a few times at their first place, the Soho offices. Always remember the walls were sort of green and white, and purple and white and orange and white. Horrible looking place.
I mean, we could not be stopped. I was out there hitting the streets, meeting people, meeting the streets, hitting people. I saw men come and go, and it was men, like all men. Okay, there were a few women, but they could not stand the heat. So, ironically, they had to get out of the kitchen. Wait, why can't I say that?
Before you could say, oh, this is a lovely peach, Tony had made his first million.
You never forget your first mill. Or your first mill. It was a real buzz when we bought that mill. We made silk briefly. Just because we could.
In the summer of 1985, I was engaged to oversee the financial affairs of Milch Enterprises, to count the juicy moolah, as they put it. Eventually, I was allowed to see the balance sheets. There was one column for income, a significantly smaller column for expenses. There was always one column headed Pleasure Bay.
Ah, Pleasure Bay.
And that never had any numbers in. That was always shaded in black. One Tuesday, I believe, I asked Mr. Milch what happened there. He put a finger to his lips and he said, "Colin, some things are best left in the ocean."
He made his priorities clear. Number 1, Tony Milch. Number 2, Tony Milch. Number 3, former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kenneth Clarke. Number 4, me. Number 5, Tony Milch again.
I tried calling him, always got his voicemail. But we're very happy for him, of course.
I always say most people get married in a church. We got married in a rush. Do you take this woman? Yep, and then he was off. A margarine conference in Mauritius, I think. Milch Enterprises became rather like a break-dancing camel. Impossible to ignore and difficult not to respect.
They started manufacturing their own steel.
He bought up a radio station. That became Milch FM.
A raft of hotels. A hotel made of rafts. No one thought that was going to work. But look at it now.
Motorbikes.
He had a line of margarine that was called "I cannot believe that this is Milch margarine and not butter, which I'd previously assumed it must have been."
Milch maracas.
Clogs, Milch clogs.
Had to come in these really long tubs.
But, I can't complain too much. The sex was incredible. Not with him, I mean with the men I slept with instead. And pretty soon we heard the pitter-patter of tiny feet. That was Gregor. He had these ghastly little feet.
When you're that successful, of course you're going to make a nice amount of money. But you're also going to make something else beginning with N. Enemies.
Yeah, sure, not everyone liked us, but not everyone liked Jesus. You know why? Because the bloke made absolute wads of cash. Fair play to him.
Yeah, we were keeping an eye on him. Lying in the shadows, waiting for him to trip up. But he didn't. He was like a cat. The richest cat that ever lived. As I say in the book, £16.95 hardback, good bookshops everywhere. By this point, he's unstoppable. He's got 16 different businesses on the go, and he's just getting bigger. Like a balloon that you're pumping up that's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But this wasn't a balloon. It was Tony Milch. And no one ever thought he would pop. Three wetsuits. None of them mine.
Parmesan? I said, well, it is my wedding night.
Turned them over. Lizards.